Great.
Welcome back to the E-Team Sponsor Podcast. This is Sean Connors, founder and CEO. Pleasure to be joined this morning with Marisa Moseley, and excited to have her on with us today. She's the women's head basketball coach at Boston University. Marisa, good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Sean?
I'm doing well. We're happy to have you on. You just finished your second year at Boston. You spent a number of years up there in Storrs, Connecticut with UCONN and the famed women's basketball program there in Minnesota and Denver before that. How are things just wrapping up here, your second year at Boston?
It's been great. BU is my alma mater, so just being able to come back to the place where you played and walked on the same streets that you're now trying to sell to other student athletes, I think has been awesome for me. I was welcomed back with open arms, and in a short 2 years, we've been able to take the program from, we were picked to finish 9th. My first year, we finished 4th. And then my second year, we were picked to finish 4th, and we finished 2nd. So we're definitely trending in the right direction and excited about the future.
That's awesome. I know you and I had a chance to catch up previously, and I know that it was a really abrupt end to the season this year. I know things were going really well. Tell us a little bit about how things went down the stretch there, and why maybe you've got some optimism for next year.
Yeah, so we actually we finished 18-12 on the year, 12-6 in conference, which was like our best finish in the time that BU's been in the Patriot League. And we had won 9 out of our last 11 games, and the other 2 we had lost by like a combined 3 points. And so we really felt like we were catching fire there at the end, and we came up short, obviously, because of the pandemic. And so we were actually on the court for shoot around. We were going to be hosting the first time, we were going to be hosting the semifinal. And I got the message that, the tournament had been canceled. So we were 2 games away from what we felt like would have been just the second time in school history that we would have went to the NCAA tournament. The first time was my junior year in 2003. So we've had a short layoff in between, and we're excited to get back and return quite a few players. We lost 2 seniors, but we brought in 3 new players, and one of which is a transfer from Villanova. And so we feel really good and excited about things to come next year.
That's great. Well, congratulations on the great season that you just had. Trending in the right direction, I guess would be the right word, right? So that's great. And so how, right now, obviously things are difficult and challenging for everyone dealing with the current pandemic. How are things going within the basketball program? How are how are things going with the student athletes, your coaches? Tell us a little bit about how things are going there.
Yeah, so we've really from the beginning, we kind of shifted gears to, okay, what is this new normal going to look like? Never had done a Zoom prior to this, and now I feel like I'm a Zoom PhD. But we just made sure that we were staying in contact with our kids, but also not overwhelming them. I was a little bit of trial and error, because at the beginning I was like, all right, let's do like Zoom, get-togethers where we like dress up crazy and we do this and we do that. And they were like, Coach, like too much. Like we have schoolwork, we are trying to figure out, our professors have like increased like their assignments and everything else tenfold. And so I was like, all right, we're gonna dial that down a bit. So now we just meet with them once a week. We have some individual groups. My assistants and I each have like 3 or 4 kids in our individual groups that we check in with to make it a little bit more intimate. And now that we just finished finals this past week, so now we're again making another pivot to what does the summer look like. We won't have summer access with them, which I tried to explain to them that is a relatively new phenomena. And so like they still can get better, and people won championships prior to having summer access, so it's going to be okay. Just to give them a little bit of context that it's not like, this isn't like the end of the world. Like it's great, and I love summer access and them having time to meet their teammates and have the camaraderie. But at the end of the day, we will still go on, and we can still have a really productive and successful season.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, I know your story is really, really fascinating. Why I was excited to have you join the podcast in the first place is just your story in terms of where you're from and playing at BU, and then having the opportunity to coach where you have, and then now full circle, come back to BU. So we love it when people get to share their story. So share your story with us. Let us know, how is athletics unlocked opportunity for you?
Yeah, so my story starts in Springfield, Mass, and birthplace of basketball. And I got a chance to actually work there in high school. My sister started first; she was the trailblazer, and then I just followed her. It's pretty much the story of our lives. From Springfield, I was actually in the METCO program, which bussed kids out to school in Long Meadow, which was a suburb of Springfield, and so I did that 1st through 12th grade, and they ended up having a really good basketball team, and it was a really great education. So it was a win-win for me, and my parents really chose it because it was the proximity to Springfield. They could get there quickly. And then from Long Meadow, I earned a scholarship to BU. I played there for 4 years. And while I was playing at BU, there wasn't a lot of, ironically, the birthplace of basketball, there wasn't a ton of basketball leagues and such for women during the summer. And so my college coach suggested that I work at some camps in order to be able to work out, make a little bit of money, and meet folks. And so I ended up working at UCONN's camp, and that was my first kind of introduction. And I was completely intimidated because I'm like, it's at the time it was Diana and it was Sue and Asia Jones, and
Wow.
it was just the royalty of UConn were there, the kind of that heyday of the 2000s. And so, but they were amazing. And, Morgan Valley, who is now the head coach at University of Hartford, she and I had played AAU against each other. So I knew her a little bit, but it was just, they welcomed me in right away, and it was awesome. And I spent 2 summers working there, and then kind of put that on the back burner, and went on with my career at BU, and was a part of the first NCAA tournament team in school history, and then went on to decide that I actually wanted to do television. Everyone was like, you should coach. And I thought, no, I want to do something different. I want to work in television. And so I was fortunate to get a job as a production assistant at ESPN. And so we were cutting highlights and for SportsCenter and ESPN News. And the hours were crazy because sports happen at night, which as a sports fan, I probably should have known that. But for a TV person, there's hours are 5 p.m. to 2 a.m. And I worked the Australian Open one year, and it was 7 p.m. to 4 a.m. And I was like the only one by myself. Yeah, so I was like, I don't know if this is like really my calling. And I had this big grandiose plan that I would work my way from behind the camera to in front of camera, which is like so many people's story. And they tell you, don't do that when you get hired there. Like, if that's what you're planning to do, don't do that. I was like, got it. So I'll take the job, and that's what I'm going to do.
That's what I'm going to do.
And I was fortunate enough that while I was there, ESPN won an Emmy for The Daily Show. So I got to win an Emmy while I was there. So that sits in my office.
Wow. Okay.
So that was pretty cool. But I will say that I'm probably most proud of my championship rings, more than the Emmy. So I'm sorry, Emmy, whoever the Emmy people are. I'm sorry. But yeah, so from BU, I worked at ESPN, and from ESPN, I remember like vividly, like 2:00 in the morning in one of my shifts, reaching out to one of my, well, first I went on the NCAA website, saw like, let me just see what jobs are posted. And I remember the first one was like Clemson women's basketball. I was like, oh my God, like I can't work in the ACC, like forget it. And so I like closed it out. And then I reached out to one of my assistant coaches, like, hey, I'm kind of thinking about this. And honestly, within a 2-week period, I had an interview at the University of Denver. I had never even been to Colorado before. It just is kind of one of those things that was right place, right time. And at the same time, I also believe that your steps are ordered. So I don't think it was just like a coincidence. And so flew out to Denver, was offered the job on the interview, took it, immediately started to cry because I was like, holy, I am going to be a 4-hour flight from my family and everyone that I know. But it ended up kind of starting this path of coaching that I've been on now for the last 15 years. So from there, 2 years, and then went to the University of Minnesota, and that was incredible. I cried every time I took a job, and I cried every time I left a job because I just got connected to the people. and the place. And from Minnesota, UCONN opened, and I remember getting a call from, I was in my office, or actually in my apartment in Minnesota, and I was about to go on vacation actually back to Denver. And I had gotten a call from Morgan saying, hey, Coach Arama is interested in talking to you about the job opening. And I was like, and I knew that Jamel Elliott had taken the Cincinnati job. And honestly, like everybody else, I was like, I wonder who they'll hire. And that was literally it. And I kind of kept moving because literally never crossed my mind that it would potentially be me. And so then I like kind of froze, and I was like, he does? Okay. And so when he reached out, he was like, hi, this is Gino Arama. And I was like, oh my gosh, hi. And the irony is, the only interaction I had with him at camp was like him driving by in his little convertible waving, like he wasn't like there every day. And he's this legend, and he was totally normal and great. And, I came out for an interview, and he offered me the job. I remember actually sitting in his office. It was the very beginning of the day, and I'm nervous, and I'm just like, in my suit. And I'm like, okay. He's like, hey, listen, Marisa, I know you have to do all these other meetings and everything, but I just want to let you know that I want you here. So do what you need to do, but, I want you to be here. And I was like, got it. And it was so really interesting to have been in that seat, and then years later continue to watch the recruiting process with other kids. Because I really knew what that felt like. I felt in some way, to be recruited by him. And it was definitely an honor. And it changed the trajectory of my life for sure, by taking on that role and just learning and growing under his tutelage and the program in general. And so many great memories, and went to 9 Final Fours during my 9 years, and won 5 national championships. But more than that, just really, it's cliche, but it really was the players and the relationships that I got to make are lifelong. And I've been really fortunate. Every stop that I've made in coaching, I've kept in contact with people from those stops, and so it's definitely impacted. And so as far as kind of what have athletics unlocked for me, it's really just been an opportunity for me to expand my network of people, of relationships, and just continue to expose me to so many things, whether it's travel or just pushing me outside of my comfort zone to make me a better person.
That's great. What a great story. Has there been any relationship, speaking of that, any relationship that you've forged along the way that you really look back on and say, wow, had I not gone down that path, had I not gone to Denver, got on that flight? Is there any relationship at this point that you can point back to and say, wow, that was really key in my development?
That's a great question. I would have to say maybe 2. One would be, I had the opportunity to develop a relationship with Stuart Scott when I was at ESPN. And
Wow.
had I not, I remember like it was yesterday, and I do miss him, but I remember when it was like it was yesterday that it was my first like big highlight that I had. And so we had spent it felt like we had spent all day on this highlight. So it was like a baseball highlight, which the irony is I'm not even a huge baseball fan, but go Red Sox though. I just so happened to get this great highlight. And so it was like the ball was rolling like all over the place, like through people's legs. I mean, it was just like a comedy of errors. And so we put like Jeopardy music on, and it was like we were in the editing suite and everything else. So we finally get it perfect. And it just so happened that Stu was the one who's gonna read it. And so I'd not met him to this point. And so I just walked up to him and I was like, hi, because you had to give him the shot sheet at the time. Now I'm sure everything's digital, but at the time you had to write on it, like the play, what happened, and there was like 3 things. If you had any errors on your shot sheet, you would get marked down. And so there was like this whole process at ESPN where you were voted on whether you were kept or not kept, which meant you either had a job or you didn't have a job. So after like 6 months. So you had to make sure that you didn't have any errors, because if you had a certain amount of errors, they wouldn't keep you.
Okay.
And I'm a perfectionist anyway, so I didn't have any errors, and I also, people will laugh at home because I for some reason can't say that word correctly, but whatever. That mirrors, the R's, it's not good. So anyway, so I hand it to him and I'm like, listen, we just spent so much time on this. Now this is Stuart Scott. I mean, he's like incredible, right? I'm like, we just spent so much time on this and you have to give this the read of your life. And he was like, who's this girl? But he was like, okay, got it. And from then on, we forged this friendship, and he was incredibly supportive. And ironically, I also ran into him when I took the UConn job. He was in Bradley in the airport when I was flying back to Minnesota, and I'm like sitting on the floor crying because clearly that's what I do. And he was like, what's going on? And I was like, I just took the job at UConn. He's like, and why are you crying?
You're crying.
I don't want to tell my Minnesota girls because I feel bad, whatever. So he was great. And then I think Coach Ariema would be the other one, just being able to call him a friend and not just a coworker or a boss, but that, he has been so great for me, and we are very similar. We have a very similar sense of humor. We're both March babies, maybe that's why, but we got each other, and he pushed me and he let me grow and develop. And so I think those would be maybe two of my most influential, but I'm sure there's plenty of others along the way.
Oh, that's great. Great story. Stuart Scott was one of my favorites. Little known fact, I was actually a broadcasting major in college as well.
Oh.
Yeah, and interned with ABC Sports going into my last year of college, and did that in the fall. And I don't think I would have made it. I don't think I would have made it. So I decided, you know what, I think I'm gonna head home and I'm gonna follow my other passion, similarly to you, coaching. Yeah. So I understand the ESPN lore, like that whole, that was the dream, right? Oh gosh, if I could ever make it on ESPN one day and do a Sports Center highlight next to Stuart Scott, right? That was everyone's dream at the time. So what a great story. Leadership, you've obviously had a number of leaders in your life in terms of, from high school to college to your professional career. Tell us a little bit about what leadership means to you, and how are you choosing to lead now, being the head coach?
Yeah, you mentioned this earlier when we were talking, and I just recently got connected with the program, and they define leadership as influence, and I thought, like, I love that. That is totally what it is, And so I'm basically stealing everybody's stuff. You already know that. But borrowing, gifted, however. Yeah.
Why reinvent the wheel, right? It's all out there. Make it your own. Yeah.
Totally. But no, I think from leadership, I do feel like that's what it is. I mean, I got into this because I felt like my coach really impacted my life, and I wanted to be able to pay back or pay it forward, as it were, that type of impact on young women's lives. I felt like I had something that I could impart from my experiences and just from who I was as a person, and I wanted to be able to do that through the game. And I thought there were so many great lessons that this game teaches you about life and determination and adversity and so many different things. And so I was like, I think I could do this and do this well. I also look at it as kind of servant leadership as well. And so I feel like, we're all vessels, and how can we help serve other people? And so a big part of the way that I lead and develop my team is a holistic approach. It's not just about basketball. So I want to make them to be more empowered women. And, I've stopped them in the middle of practice. And, I remember one of my rising seniors, and I said, was that a foul? And she was like, well, I said, did she foul you? And she was like, well, I mean, I said, if she fouled you, then you need to say, yes, that was a foul. And then we can move on. But I said, what we do as women sometimes is we make ourselves small so that other people feel better. And we're not going to do that. So if it's a foul, we let them know it's a foul. And something as small as that, I feel like, really reinforces them to grow their voice, to be confident, to say what happened when it happened. I remember being in a meeting when I was at Connecticut, and you know, there was one of the coaches was a male coach, asked me, you know, we were talking about something, and he was like, so what's your point? And I was like, boom, 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 that's my point. And in that moment, he realized like, oh, okay, like she's not messing around, she's got her stuff together. Like, yeah, like you've got to be able to kind of, you know, step into your own space and be respectful, but like not let people walk on you. And so I think for me, it's, you know, we have a responsibility as women, as female coaches, as male coaches, to empower these young women that are under our tutelage to kind of become the best version of themselves.
Yeah, let's expand upon that a little bit. I love that leadership from, you know, from a women's perspective. Why is it important? Why is it important for you in that position, leading young women? Why is that important to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, especially as a Black woman, you know, to be in the role that I'm in, I'm the first Black female coach ever as a women's basketball coach at Boston University. So to be in that role and have other young Black women and white women and Asian women, Spanish women, whatever, see someone who potentially looks like them, whether it's the female part or, you know, the way that I wear my hair, the color of my skin, or whatever the case is, that's important. Those are important messages for young women to see. And you hear constantly how when I was a kid, when you were a kid, even dolls and things of that nature that weren't always representative of what people look like. And so I think to actually have a real life example of that, and then to have them be successful to boot, I think is really important. So I feel an incredible responsibility and pressure to make sure that that I hold myself to a higher standard, but that I also continue to forge a path forward for other women and women of color who look like me to have this opportunity and know that, you know, this isn't a one-off, that this is possible for you too.
That's great. That's a great message. I think it's so important for people to just understand that there's leadership comes in many different forms, and it's just great to see that you're continuing to carry the torch for women, especially in the game of basketball. It's a great vision, mission, and way to lead. I love it. Getting into some of the fun stuff, we'll talk a little bit about. We won't go back to Springfield, Mass, and the birthplace of basketball or the Hall of Fame. Fun fact, though, to know that you and your sister worked there. That's great. Take us into Boston. So I love being able to get the best greasy spoon, what it's famous for, all the fun stuff about Boston. And I have to jump in there real quick. So my father is from Haverhill, Mass.
Right.
And I guess if you're not from there, they call it Haverhill. But
yeah.
He always said
or Haverhill.
Or Haverhill, yeah. My dad always used to say that the true Boston curse is the fact that you can't say ours. That's the curse.
Well, you know, it's so funny. Maybe that's probably my problem. Even though I'm from Western Mass, although I also get asked if I'm from the Midwest. I've been asked if I'm from California. So I guess I'm very much a chameleon when it comes to where you're from.
You don't have the Bostonian accent. That's for sure.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Yeah, I don't tell you to pock the cod, have a yacht.
Pock the cod, have a yacht. Yeah. Stay wicked far apart during COVID-19. Wicked far apart.
Like I don't even. Yeah, that's not me. Yeah.
That's good. Well, let's have some fun with that. So let's say you got a free morning, no basketball, no basketball obligations. Where are you heading for the best greasy spoon in Beantown?
Ooh. Okay. Well, I am not a breakfast person.
Oh, okay.
Although if I do breakfast, I used to live in the South End, and there's a place called Mike's Diner that is really good. And I think it was on like diners, drive-ins, and dives.
Triple D. Okay.
Yeah, Triple D. So it's definitely Triple D approved, and also Marisa approved. So check it out.
Coach Moseley, check.
Check. Yeah. Blue check. But I think from a like Boston's known for seafood, which also I don't like. So I probably shouldn't even be on this podcast. But no, there's this place that's right by campus in Brookline. It's called the Abbey, and they have this phenomenal buffalo bolognese that is like spicy and delicious and just awesome. So I will go there anytime I can.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably one of my favorites. Best steak restaurant is actually, I think it's a chain, but Ocean Prime is phenomenal.
Okay.
So down by the seaport. If you're lactose intolerant, there is this ice cream place called FOMU, which is like fake cow, FOMU. And so it's coconut based, very delicious. They've all vegan stuff. I'm not a vegan, but I will try that.
We got to go chowder. How about the chowder? Who's got the best chowder?
I'm failing. I've had it, but I don't know why. Since I was a kid, I'm just not into the seafood. I think people will go, I've heard like Legal Seafoods is good, but I'm sure there's like a really great like chowder company somewhere. I don't know.
Recruiting trips, where you bringing the girls in, if it comes to, because Boston obviously very famous, one of the oldest cities in the country.
Yeah.
Recruiting trip, where do the kids get to go?
Sometimes we'll take them down to the North End. So like Little Italy, great food down there. Down to Faneuil Hall and Quincy Market. So you can get any kind of food that you could possibly want. They have a Magnolia Bakery that's also famous in New York. That's very delicious. Where else do we take them? They'll often come to my apartment and we'll get this barbecue place called Blue Ribbon that is fantastic.
Okay.
But yeah, we kind of mix it up. They get a little bit of everything, but just depends also on what they're into. We try to accommodate as much as possible. Got
it. Love it. All right. Well, good. Well, I picked up some good ones there. I'll give you a free pass for now on the chowder, but
I'm gonna find now. I feel the pressure. I'm gonna go find out.
Now you're gonna have to go find. You're gonna,
or at least ask somebody.
Yeah, exactly. Start asking around. Where do we go for the best chowder? That's good. That's really good. Well, coming down the home stretch, there's a lot that I'll say that the world is dealing with right now, but specifically when it comes to, people that are listening to our podcast, they're student athletes, coaches, athletic directors at the high school and college level. What message would you share with them in terms of empowerment or a positive message that you'd share in terms of what they can focus on here for the future?
When you mentioned this, the first thing that popped into my head, so hopefully this resonates with people, but when I was a kid, my mom and I would be riding to soccer practice and we would be jamming out to a cassette tape, because that's how old I am, of Carole King. And I love Carole King. Actually, my mom and I a couple years ago went and saw her on Broadway, her life story. And my senior quote in high school, I still firmly believe this, is a Carole King quote that says, "You've got to get up every morning with a smile on your face and show the world all the love in your heart." And I think that, no matter what you're going through, that resonates and it transcends. And for me, I really try to live by that credo. I think life's too short. You've got to, be as positive you can be. You've got to laugh. You've got to have a good time, because that is truly what will get us through the difficult times.
It's a great message. Great message. Wow. Well, a lot to take away from this. This is going to be a great podcast to share with everyone. I think when we look back and you hear people share their story, they talk about what leadership means to them, a message of how to live right now, especially. I think that there's a lot to take away here. So Marisa Moseley, thank you so much for being on the podcast with us today. We're going to have to do this again. The next time you take the team out west and you're in the Bay Area, the northern part of California, make sure you let us know, because we want to definitely come out and support. And again, really appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you so much. This was super fun, so I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.